Hey there, and welcome back to Utility Sports. In today's video, we are going to be covering the AP Top 25 for college basketball. A lot of interesting change up, especially towards the top of this AP Top 25. Sheldon, I'm going to go with the others receiving votes. Who is the best team in this group, and who you think in the next couple of weeks that can really make the jump into this top 25?
There are a bunch of teams here in that others receiving votes. I think college basketball right now, especially after you get past number 20, it's really wide open. I think a lot of these teams are teams that we will see ranked at some point this year. Some of them have already been ranked. But for me, that answer is Florida State. They've got a really young team. Leonard Hamilton there, he's a phenomenal head coach. He really coaches these guys up well, specifically defensively. They're currently on a 6-game win streak, and that wasn't against a bunch of nobodies. It was also against Miami twice in there. They also beat Duke. That was their most notable win of the season. They're starting to roll. I think that they're a team that can really make waves as we get through the later part of the season.
Yeah, so now we're going to jump into the first couple here. We have Davidson, Illinois, Iowa State, Marquette, and Xavier. What do you like about Iowa State? You know, I know that they've fallen a little bit, but do you think there's really bounce back opportunity for this team?
Yeah, I do think they will bounce back. Iowa State's become a very good program over the last few years, and I think this year is another example of that. I think one issue with this team is they're a little bit more one-dimensional than they have been historically in terms of scoring the basketball. Guard Isaiah Brockington for them, he's been really shouldering the load this year, averaging north of 17 points a game, and I think that is really the one downfall is they don't have another guy who can really go out and get his own bucket when they need that. So there's a lot of pressure on Brockington to carry the load for that offense, but he's been very capable. I think this rough week for them isn't really indicative of what they're going to be as a team. I expect them to jump back up into the top 10 or top 15 range, excuse me, because I think they're a team that talented.
Yeah, I definitely think you're right on that one. But Illinois is another team that fell a little bit in this latest rendition. Talk a little bit about the struggles of Illinois.
Illinois right now, it's all predicated on the absence of Kofi Cockburn. He's been missing time. Bozeman Verdonk has stepped in, played pretty well. Of course, they had the overtime loss against Purdue. They had a very disappointing loss against Maryland, so a 2-game losing streak currently. But I think Illinois is a very, very good team. Also, you see Andre Curbelo coming back. That's going to be huge for this team, finally getting him back on the wing. This team has a lot of the pieces that you need to be a good college basketball team. I just think getting Kofi Cockburn back, we're going to see this team jump back up toward the top 10 again. They're very, very talented. Do not hit the panic button on Illinois.
Obviously very talented Big Ten. And now we have the next grouping here: Connecticut, LSU, Tennessee, Providence, and then finally Ohio State. And kind of looking at this group, we do see some SEC schools. We have LSU and Tennessee having just played each other. Looking at this LSU team, tell me about what's happening. Obviously, they had this really, really awesome start. Have definitely tumbled once SEC play has started, dropping some key games against some key rivals. What's going on in Baton Rouge?
Right, this team had started out so well. Their loss to Auburn kind of really started a free fall for this team a little bit. They were a team that I thought could maybe get up to the top 10 at one point with how they were playing. They were relatively close. You see them last week, 13th overall. But in the SEC, it's tough to maintain that level of play, especially when they don't have a true half-court scorer. Tari Eason's been the best example of what they have this year in terms of scoring the basketball in the half-court, but I think they're really missing Adam Miller. He had transferred in from Illinois. He was going to be a huge part of that team for Will Wade. His injury at the beginning of the season, I think, has really lowered their ceiling. I think they're still a good team. They have a high floor, but I just don't think that their ceiling is necessarily going to be where it's at without him there. And when you look at another SEC team here in Tennessee, they're finding their footing right now, and I think a lot of it has to do with guard Kennedy Chandler, who is Adam Miller's teammate in the USA U19 World Cup. He's a really pesky defensive-minded guard who's finding his wave offensively, and I think someone who, as the season progresses, is going to have to really shoulder more offensive load for that Tennessee Volunteers team, but I think he's the guy that can do it at the collegiate level.
Yeah, absolutely. Two interesting SEC teams. And now we're jumping into the top 15. We got USC, Villanova, Texas Tech, Kentucky, and Wisconsin. A lot of variation here. Teams moving up and down in these rankings. Highlight a team that you think out of this group could really find their groove and jump into that top 10.
There's a few in here, and I think this goes to show how strong college basketball is right now. Wisconsin, a team I really like. Johnny Davis, I think he's the heart and soul of that team. He's exactly what they were missing. His jump as a sophomore has been tremendous for this Wisconsin Badgers team. He's going to be the guy that carries them down the stretch of games, something that LSU is missing, like we just talked about. In the previous 5-team segment, Wisconsin, they have that guy with Johnny Davis, and that's really the biggest difference maker for me with them on this list. Then you look at Kentucky, they've got guys that can run their offense through the high pick and roll between Ty Washington and Oscar Tshiebwe has been phenomenal this year. Tshiebwe can also work into the mid-range area, one of the best rebounders in college basketball, if not the best rebounder. And Ty Washington is really progressing as a scorer himself, which I like to see, and as a facilitator. So they've got a two-man wrecking crew, and they've also got some decent pieces around them. And then USC, I think they're a team that's going to quietly continue to make some noise, especially when you look at what Isaiah Mobley can be. He's a phenomenal floor spacing big man, and I think they have enough size and length that they're going to at least be a little problematic for some of these other teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Great job highlighting that. Moving in here to that critical top 10, Michigan State. We have Duke, Houston, UCLA, and Purdue. I know you're high and low on Purdue. This is a tough team to really figure out because at one point they were looking like they were going to solidify themselves in that top 3. Now they slide down to 6. What's really going on with Purdue? Should we take them as serious contenders? Where does this team really sit?
To me, they are serious contenders, but it's really going to hinge on Jaden Ivey's half-court play because they have certain elements to their offense right now that I think will really work when it comes to March. A guy like Sasha Stefanovic, who's a phenomenal three-point shooter. You can run him off of swagger screens. You can run him off of pin downs. He's going to be able to do a lot of different things, catching the basketball on the perimeter. And then Travion Williams gives you a real good half-court offensive identity when he's in the game coming off the bench behind Zach Edey because he can play make out of the post. You get a lot of good cut action off of him. Phenomenal playmaker at that center position. The only thing for me is Jaden Ivey has to take that next step at the collegiate level. I'm very high on him as an NBA prospect, but I think at the collegiate level right now, he's got to take another step forward, becoming a better half-court scorer, and really, take over the ownership of, hey, I'm the man for this program right now, and I've got to take us home when we need it. They had a nice win over Illinois. Of course, Illinois did not have Kofi Cockburn in that one, though. And I think that there's just a little bit of a holdup with what their half-court offense can really be. And right now it's Jaden Ivey turning that corner.
Yeah, absolutely. Jaden Ivey really has to be the man to right the ship with this Purdue program. And now we look forward to that top 5. We have Kansas and Baylor, Arizona, and then the critical ones here, Gonzaga and Auburn. Now, let me ask you this, specifically at the top. Are you surprised to see Auburn at number 1 after this week?
I'm not. I remember a few weeks ago, I was recording one of these when they were ranked 11th, and I said this is way too low. This is the best team in college basketball this season. And it's not really surprising. When you look at what they have on this roster, they've got guard depth. They've got guys who can score the basketball on the perimeter. They have the go-to player in Jabari Smith. That's really the big X factor in this that a lot of other programs just unfortunately don't have. Jabari Smith is going to be one of the best half-court scorers once he gets into the NBA, and he's been that this year for Auburn all season long. And then they not only have him, but they have another former Mr. Georgia Player of the Year there in state with Walker Kessler, who's been phenomenal. Those two guys protect the rim well. They work off of each other offensively. Walker Kessler can dominate around the rim. Jabari Smith, a perimeter outside 4. This team is dangerous. They've got everything that you need and more to win a title at the collegiate level. Jabari Smith, he's going to be really the key guy. Everyone's going to have their eyes on him, but Walker Kessler does so many of the little things. They've got some other pieces there as well. I like their guard play a lot. So this team has a lot of pieces, and I think their ability to score the ball in multiple different areas is really what separates them from Gonzaga, who's struggling a little bit this year from 3.
So let's talk about Kansas real quick. I know you talk about them being potentially pretenders. Seemingly every year you're lower than them than the rest of the nation. But tell me why this year it's the same old Jayhawks.
Kansas, to me, they're going to be a team that is going to play very well throughout the regular season, but I always just have the question about what their top end talent is. Ochai Agbaji, I know he's top 5 right now in the nation in scoring, but I just don't see him matching up well with guys like Jaden Ivey, with Jabari Smith, with the Paulo Bancheros of the world. Even Wendell Moore Jr. out of Duke, I think he's going to be a little bit of a problem for Ochai Agbaji in his frame. I just don't see Kansas having the top dog that you need to have. And a team like Baylor, I think is just a better put together Kansas, where they play together a little bit more. They have a little bit more playmaking capabilities, a little bit more dynamism on offense. Kansas is good. They just always struggle when it gets to the big stage. They had a loss this year to Dayton. Again, they struggle sometimes, and I just can't find myself fully believing in this team at the level I do a team like Auburn or Gonzaga or even Arizona this year, who's really balanced themselves. The top 4 here, I think, are all head and shoulders above what Kansas is.
So you find them to really be in a gap between 4 and 5. Really interesting stuff from you, Sheldon. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Also, please like the video if you do enjoy this college basketball content, specifically these top 25s. We appreciate the support, and we will catch you guys in our next video.